Today my wife went bat crap crazy because I posted a pic of my son in costume before she did on Facebook, stealing all the precious likes. Reddit, what is the strangest crap your spouse got angry at you for? If posting pictures of your kid on FB made your wife got bat crap crazy, you've got a hellstorm coming when she finds out you made it to the front page of Reddit with a post about how insane she is. Good luck with that, man. Even worse, she was hoping to make it to the front page with a post about how rude her husband is for stealing her likes. My wife was yelling at me about something stupid. She screams out, "I can't even look at you anymore." She whips her head around and slams straight into the wall behind her. She then spent the next half hour blaming me for putting the wall there. Not a spouse, but I once dated a woman who got angry if I drank more than a glass of milk a day. Angry enough to stop speaking to me for small lengths of time. Her reasoning was that she just didn't see how someone could drink that much milk. Proper responses: here's how. 1 cup. 2 cup. Red cup. Go frick yourself, I like milk. Had a beer with neighbor. My now ex-wife said it was the same as cheating. We had just talked and drank an hour adjoined front lawns. He's a dude. I asked for her rationale. She said I was having secret meetings with other people behind her back. Batshit crazy. Be honest, you were plotting how to kill her and run off with your hunky neighbor. My best friend died 4 days before my ex-GF's birthday. When I found out, I got in contact with my friends so we could meet up and be there for each other. I asked the ex if she wanted to go with me, since she had hung out with them multiple times. She threw a hissy fit and said I was ruining her birthday. She screamed at me for not caring about her and said that I was being selfish. Jesus Christ, man. That's just plain awful. An ex of mine wrecked her car early one morning 100+ miles from home and called me in a panic. She'd never been in a wreck before and didn't know what to do. So I took my entire day off to talk her through it, deal with the police and insurance, deliberate over whether a doctor's visit was necessary first, drive down to the crash site, rent a trailer, recover the car, tow it back home and sell it to a junkyard. She didn't have full coverage, and then took her out to dinner. At the end of the day, as I was dropping her off at her apartment, she told me that she didn't want to see me anymore. Her reason? You didn't do anything to make me feel better today. It was all about the car. What about me? I have no regrets ending that one. Jesus freaking Christ, if anything I regret starting that one. You selfish son of a b. My husband and I have been married for 9 years. He is never critical of me. He never snaps at me. He never complains. A couple of weeks ago I was lounging in the lazy boy next to our bed eating ice cream while he was lying in bed working on his laptop. He looked at me for a minute and very quietly sighed. I asked what was wrong. He said, "Nothing." I said, "No, really, dear. Tell me." I thought he was having a problem with his code. He stopped typing, looked at me, and very matter-of-factly said, "Sometimes when you eat ice cream you are so noisy that I want to strangle you with my bare hands." I see. You've kept this to yourself for almost 10 years, I asked. "Oh, no," he said. "It's only been bothering me for the last 6 or 7 years. The eating noises can be super annoying." Don't read too much into his answer. I like to game, as in weekly D&D sessions with my 30+ year old friends. We've been doing this weekly for 10 years. My wife, back in the GF days, used to get so upset, like, screaming and shouting upset. Just a few of the reasons I got from her. It's immature. It's stupid. I should be spending that time with her. The thing is, that is almost the only thing I do for fun with friends. Save occasional games of disc golf in the summer, while my wife plays baseball weekly, in the summer, and gets together with her friends once or twice a week. No amount of reasoning could ever explain that I deserved to enjoy my time with friends just as much as she did. Her friend finally reasoned it into her head. It hasn't been a problem for years now. In fact, when I considered stopping due to work stresses, she convinced me to stick with it. Her friend compared my hobby with her husband's. Something along the lines of, "My husband goes to the bars multiple times a week, gets drunk every time, sometimes driving home drunk at 2 or 3 in the morning, spends way more money than he makes buying himself and others drinks, and occasionally hits on women while he's drunk. And you're mad because Witty Nick hangs out with his friends once a week in his friend's basement, where they tell each other stories with dice. No alcohol, no money spent, no hitting on women, and he's home by 11:30 p.m. Tell each other stories with dice is my new favorite way to explain role-playing games. My wife tried to divorce me in her sleep. It was the middle of the night and she shoves me awake. Literally shoves me. I wake up and she's sitting bolt upright in bed like the chick from Paranormal Activity. We need to make other arrangements. She pulls her wedding ring off and stuffs it in my hand. This is for you. I can't believe you did that in front of our son. She then lays down and is instantly asleep, like snoring, completely out. That's when I realized she was asleep the whole time. So I wake her up. She's pissed that I woke her up. And I ask her, do you know what you just did? I'm trying to figure out if I need to sleep with a knife under my pillow the rest of my life. Nope, no clue. Then I hand her back the wedding ring and she remembers. Apparently I had been on the couch and our son asked me a question and I replied, yeah, whatever. I'd rather be boning Faye. Faye BTW is a cartoon character in the online comic strip Questionable Content. Apparently this was enough cause to stimulate a dream divorce. And yes, now every time when she asks me a question about which I have no vested interest, I always tell her, yeah, whatever. I'd rather be boning Faye. Oh dang, I'd totally bang Faye, and Dora, and Hannibal. I've lost about 60 pounds since we got married. My wife has gone the other way. This apparently makes me an butthole. I put away the clean laundry. You might think I did this because I saw the laundry and noticed it needed putting away, and for no reason more complicated than that. But my wife saw right through that facade and realized that in fact I was putting the laundry away to indicate to her that she should have done it, and show her that I thought she was a terrible wife for not having done it already. How cruel of me. Pregnancy, not even once. Not my spouse, but my stepmother when I was about 16. Story goes like this. She has a dream that my father had cheated on her and throws my father and I out on the street at 3:00 o'clock in the morning. She said if she dreamed it, it must be true because her dreams wouldn't lie to her. That, my friend, is the definition of bat crap crazy. She said if she dreamed it, it must be true because her dreams wouldn't lie to her. Dear God, if my dreams were true. One of my exes got mad at me for going to work because she felt like I was abandoning her. Our relationship didn't last long. This is how an abusive partner will keep the object of their obsession in financial jeopardy. My very pregnant wife and I were loading the dishwasher. She put in this very large Tupperware container that took up half the space. So I took it out and threw it in the sink in front of her so I could wash it by hand. Immediately, she started crying and flipping out, screaming that I was throwing things at her. She could lose the baby. I was going to be a horrible father. Then she ran upstairs and locked herself in the bathroom for 2 hours. She came out and pretended nothing had happened. I wrote it off as pregnancy insanity. My cousin had a great story when I asked him about marriage years ago. It's great, but sometimes it gets crazy. I was watching the game and she came in from the kitchen and started screaming at me. All you ever think about is yourself. You are the most inconsiderate person I have ever met. All my girlfriends were right about you. Sometimes I wonder why I even married you, etc. etc. Semicolon, to which my cousin replied, I'm sorry, forgot to put the butter back in the fridge. Asking her how her day was. If I wanted to fricking tell you, I would fricking tell you. Frick, you're so fricking nosy at times. I just got up and left at that point. My ex-wife used to get mad at me for getting mad. Anytime anything made me upset. For any reason. This includes things like someone hitting my car and me accidentally scalding myself with my tea in the presence of my ex. It was like a matador flaring his red cape. She would immediately start screaming at me, sometimes for hours. It wasn't until about a year after she left me that I realized this was abuse. It's kind of scary the lengths we'll go to justify or excuse others in our heads. While walking hand in hand with my ex, she suddenly clamped down with that hand while whipping around and whacking my wrist with her 80s giant girl keychain assortment. Got a real good whack and right on the bone. When asked, I was told I looked too happy. I'll take complete blame for this one. I'm 8 months pregnant and my husband and I are watching TV. We flip through the channels and pause on hoarders. After laughing at the ridiculous hoarding situation being featured, my husband kiddingly says, "If you ever ended up hoarding like that, I'd have to leave you." Cue hormonal pregnant woman mental break. I go completely silent for about 2 hours until he's finally going crazy asking me what's wrong. I finally break down, full on sobs and tears, and just keep repeating, "There's a limit to your love. Hormones are a B." My wife and I are respiratory therapists at the same hospital. She tells me yesterday that it pisses her off when people tell her how smart and good I am at my job. Not a spouse, but I once had an ex get furious at me for being white. She liked me, but my not being Chinese was causing a lot of friction with her parents. Clever fellow that I am. I promised her that if she gave me another chance, I'd never be white again. I know that timing is everything when you're telling jokes, and in hindsight mine may not have been the best. Never let your well-being get in the way of a punchline. Not a spouse, but I had an ex-GF that got mad at me because I wasn't frequently tempted to cheat on her. You read that right. Let that one roll around in the ol' noodle for a bit. My wife backed her car out of the garage and sideswiped my car in the driveway. Turns out it was my fault for not telling her my car was there. This exact situation has happened with my parents twice. The first time my mom sideswiped my dad's car and of course she claimed it was his fault. The second time she was pulling into the garage and actually drove her car through the wall. This was my dad's fault as well. You name it. Haha. Taking too long to do the trash, the baby not being cooperative, the cat attacking her cheese pizza, etc. My personal favorite is she gets angry at me for not being argumentative. I just want to yell at you and you won't yell back. I was going on a 9-day hunting trip deep into the butt end of nowhere. As my ex-girlfriend helped me pack for the trip, I informed her more than once that we would not have regular cell service and that even if we did, the phone would be off in order to save power. I came home over a week later and the first thing she says to me is, "What do you have to say for yourself?" Excuse me? Apparently she still expected me to call her at least once a day. Of course I didn't. So over a 9-day period she had broken up and then made up with me. Twice. All on her own. Without any input by me. Using email. Beginning of this year we had the biggest fight that almost ended my wife's and I relationship. While we were visiting family back home, we ran into someone I dated in high school. She's in incredible shape and my wife, though she looked better than her, she went ape crap on me for days. I still don't understand it. We have been married for almost 20 years. I went to Costco without her. I thought I was doing us both a favor by knocking out an errand we had desperately needed to do. Turns out, I fricked up. What? She missed out on the samples. Of course she was upset. My ex-wife removed Mahjong from our computer because I had beaten all of her high scores and held every single one in every single game type. The reason this pissed her off so much is because I teased her for playing such a boring game. She fancies herself an intellectual because she has a university degree and I don't. Her rebuttal was that I didn't appreciate the game because it was too difficult. My rebuttal was owning every high score possible one night when she'd gone out with her friends. My ex-husband got furious because I was sitting on our couch eating and wanted to watch TV. He wanted to read. We had a 4BR house, and I told him there were plenty of quiet places where he could go read. He disagreed, and kept turning the TV off. I was laughing and kept turning it back on. He finally threw an ice cube as hard as he could at my forehead from about 2 feet away. It felt like a rock, and I screamed because it hurt so bad. He called me a big baby. He was a fricking dong sometimes. I'm glad we're divorced. Frick, I'm glad you're divorced too. Ice fricking hurts. My wife got mad at me for commenting on an article on Reddit because she's afraid one of you people is going to show up on our doorstep with a gun. Reading some of the comments in our politics makes this almost seem like a legitimate fear. I gave my husband a BJ just so when he was finished I could look at him and yell freeze. From South Park. I'm not sure why he was so mad. He got a BJ out of it. TLDR. My psycho ex flipped out because I wasn't planning to transcribe her audio live journal posts. My psycho ex-girlfriend is a goldmine for this stuff. Notable candidates would be when she screamed at me over the phone for spending too long at a family reunion. Visiting family I hadn't seen in years too long equals from 11 AM to 6 PM. Or when she called again, screaming and cutting herself. Stay away from cutters, kids, because I apparently spent too long, 3 hours, at a co-worker's housewarming party. But even those remotely make sense from the perspective of an overly attached, insanely insecure, jealous, psychotic girlfriend. The one that takes the cake is when she decided to make audio live journal posts. Yeah, this was a thing back in the day, and yelled at me because she assumed, rightly, that I wouldn't transcribe them for her. Apparently, you can transcribe these things, and unbeknownst to me, it's a thing for your friends to do it for you. I was completely blindsided. I can usually expect when there's a possibility she might freak out about a stupid thing, but this came completely out of nowhere. Have I mentioned that I hate her? Creed. Not my current spouse, but an ex. We were in 7-Eleven with my best friend and we were saying how much Creed sucked. Out of nowhere, he gets enraged and smacks the wallet out of my hands and all I could do was mock sing with outstretched hands with arms wide open. That was the correct reaction. Good for you. She only got mad so that she could post on AskReddit and be all like, am I right to be mad at my husband? And now you've taken all of her sweet karma. Why do you hate her so much? No karma for self post. OP is selfless. Today, Jesus has a new name. His name is Gordito. Mythbusters is a touchy subject in my house. Me and my girlfriend have had not one but 2 serious arguments about a certain myth and the way they tested it. My wife just yelled at me for reading your headline. Just the thought of having something on FB before her did me in. Just knowing that it happened to someone somewhere was too much. Thanks Gordito. Dong. My wife just yelled at me for reading your comment. The thought of you reading the headline to your wife was too much. Thanks Seagull66. Richard. My so didn't show up and contact me the entire day. I thought we would hang out. Turns out she was in the neighboring country with school and thought we would hang out the day after. I just said, okay, no problem. Just a brain fart. She asked me if I could still hang out tomorrow. I said I couldn't, which was true, after which she promptly hung up the phone while saying, well good night then. LOL sounds like my wife. When she did something wrong she always finds a way to twist things around so all of a sudden without realizing it it's going to be my fault and I end up buying flowers and massaging the frick out of her. I got way too mad at my husband for announcing on Facebook that we were engaged before I got to tell anyone. Yeah, but that actually makes sense. Your engagement is something very personal and I doubt the argument was because he stole your likes. I know I'd prefer to tell my family first in a very personal and intimate environment rather than to put it out there so 1000 plus friends can comment. Last night, my wife gave me one of the baby bibs and said put that in the dirty clothes pile upstairs. Simple enough, I think, and go upstairs to finish my task. Upon arriving at my destination, I see 2 options. A pile of clothes to my left and a single shirt in the corner. Using my astounding intellect, I placed the bib in the pile. An hour later, we're both upstairs and she sees the current location of said baby bib. Crap, gets real. Why can't you do what I ask you to, ever? But it's in the pile. No it's not. That's the pile over there, pointing to the single shirt in the corner. You've got to be kidding me. Just then the baby wakes up. This makes her even more irate. Knowing that, I attempt to calm her down. Not working. I had no choice but to call in a specialist. Good Father McMurphy arrived just in the nick of time. The demon had begun its work and was tearing her apart from the inside. He went fast to work but, alas, it was too late. The demon had overtaken her and the corruption was spreading fast. I write to you from my Wi-Fi enabled hut in the Poconos. I pray you all are safe and the demon's grasp has not yet found you. Godspeed. That's not a pile, it's a shirt. It's a single layer at best. My husband never gets angry with me or raises his voice. Sure, I could walk around thinking I'm that perfect, but of course there must be times when I drive him mad. One time I asked if there's anything he'd want me to change or reconsider and that I wouldn't be hurt by anything he said because it's important he's happy in our relationship. Finally he said, well, I don't particularly like when you take the last bit of paper on the toilet roll and then don't change it. I immediately started changing it right away and apologized. Our biggest problem in 7 years. I'm a lucky woman. TL. DR. Husband is too kind. People take notes. Interacting calmly and changing behaviors for mutual happiness. Marriage. For asking him to be quiet while our 4-month-old baby was asleep. He then went on to scream at me, throw anything that was near him, and as I tried to get mine and my son's things ready to leave try and get away from him, he locked me out of the house. So I ended up having to climb in the tiny bathroom window, knocking over a glass cup and cutting my feet as I ran to my screaming baby. We are currently going through a custody battle. Yep. Hugs you, my baby daddy is bipolar and abusing OxyContin. I know what you are going through. One night my ex and I watched an episode of Lost together. It was one of the really awesome episodes in the hatch before we knew what it was. Everything was fine. We had a good night. Fast forward 2 hours later, we're getting into bed and she just goes into a crying and yelling fit. She starts screaming at me for making her watch the episode of Lost, and that it scared her too much and now she was all stressed out. She never opened her mouth while we were watching it. She could have said change the channel, or gotten up and walked out of the room, but she just screamed at me like it was all my fault. Then I'm pretty sure she yelled at me for talking to her and trying to make her feel better. She went on antidepressants soon after that. I brought up this episode in our next couples therapy session and prescribing her pills is pretty much the first thing the therapist said. Separation and divorce happened pretty quickly after. Thank goodness. TL. DR. My ex flipped out at me after watching an episode of Lost. When I was married, my husband got mad at me for giving my order to our waiter at a restaurant. Apparently I was hitting on him. My ex-girlfriend and I were at Home Goods back in 2005. She wanted to get a dresser but was $20 short, so she asked me if I could get it for her. I told her that I only had $30 left in my account. I still had 3 days to go before payday and that we needed something that resembled groceries for the rest of the week. Her response? Stomping out of the store in tears while calling me an butthole. She was 22 years old at that point. My wife gets upset at me if she does something that harms me and I am upset by this. Let me say this again. She gets upset at me because I'm upset at her. Our frog died. So I flipped a Ziploc bag inside out, picked him up, flipped it, sealed it, and that was that. B freaked the absolute heck out because Ziploc bags and garbage bags. And not like, was kinda mad. This crap was full blown crying rage. And laughing at such a thing was apparently not the correct answer. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.